Alexandra, over to yourself.
Okay. So yeah, as I was mentioning, I represent the Fair Cobalt Alliance. The Fair Cobalt Alliance is a multi-stakeholder action platform that brings together actors from all across the entire cobalt mineral supply chain to provide an answer to the increasing scrutiny on ASM cobalt mining and the DRC mining sector. So we have an office in Kolwezi, so in the province of Lualaba in the southern part of the DRC. And I am based here in Kinshasa as I represent at the national level. And we believe that this platform is important because we know that 70% of the world's cobalt is coming from DRC. And out of the 70%, about 10% or so is from ASM cobalt. So the ASM sector is very important as it is a source of revenue for about more than 100,000 people when you combine the two provinces, so the Lualaba and the Okatanga. So it is a really important source of income for the population. So if we look at the project that we have on the ground in Kolwezi, there are three pillars that we focus on, which is the dignified working conditions, child labor remediation, and then the increase of incomes for the mine workers. And if we look deeper into the work that we do, in terms of safe and dignified working conditions, we believe that it requires investment into safer infrastructure, training of workers, and introduction to improved management systems. And our target for this is cooperatives with whom we work at a local level, but also association of women washers. So just to give a quick background, a lot of the women that work on the ASM mine site are the one washing the minerals, whereas the male are usually the ones that dig and go into the different tunnels. So for us, it is really important to work with those two groups and to ensure that their working conditions are better. And if you see in the bottom pictures, you can see that we have provided with the PPE, so personal protection equipment for the women, as they go every day into the waters, and usually the water is polluted. So the direct interaction with their skin and the water is not usually, it's not ideal, as it causes a lot of diseases and infection and so on. So we have provided, together with the cooperatives, these wader boots that would allow them to rent them every morning prior to starting work. In terms of child labor remediation, we have been working with Save the Children and our local organization or orphanage, Maison Kwetu, to put together a child referral system, a child labor remediation system that complements the one from the ILO and the government's efforts into addressing the prevalence of child labor in this sector. So we believe that instead of just kicking out children from the mine site is not enough, there needs to be a continuous program to ensure that they do not come back into those mine sites, but are actually integrated into programs that will help them find solutions for the future. Now, in terms of raising of incomes, we believe that in order to increase the incomes, the steps to be taken is already establishing transparency around the trust in trading systems and increasing efficiency and per capita outcomes to increase the different incomes. But that being said, it is important to highlight that cobalt mining has been found to earn significantly more than the average Congolese minimum wage. So it is still very helpful or for the communities working in the cobalt sector, as they're able to make an income, especially with now the growing demand for cobalt worldwide. But that being said, it is very important for us to align with the governments whenever we establish a program to ensure that there is a continuity at all levels and that we're able to also be part of that change. So for every work that we do, we report back to the government, or at least we share our information and the progress on what we do. Quickly, I'm just going to explain what all these pictures are. So the electrification of schools, we have been partnering up with the Signify Foundation, who has been able to give solar panels to the different schools, allowing for children to be safer and for them to stay maybe longer hours to be able to study within their schools. And we have also started a saving groups, which has 60% of women and 40% men, that are able to save money to either diversify their income, so they do not have necessarily to stay in the ASM sector, but could maybe invest in other projects that they would have, and that would help them increase their incomes. And for first aid trainings, we still, under the dignified working condition, it is important to really ensure that the minors have all the skills necessary to ensure that they are safe at work, and they're able to also help, are able to help themselves, like one of their colleagues, in case of accidents and so on. So in terms of our membership, you can see that we have a very diverse members, and that is because we believe in a multi-stakeholder approach. So it is important for us to work with actors all throughout the supply chain. So from the local level all the way to the downstream actors, like yes. So at a local level, we have Glencore, who is also working through its mine, KCC in Kolwezi, with whom we have direct relations on the ground as well. And they're also able to share their expertise with our team and with our local partners. So that's why we say that we really believe in the integration of all actors in the supply chain, so that it is key towards achieving a long-lasting impact. And also a multi-stakeholder approach allows for industry and civil society to work together in a pre-competitive environment. So if we look now at how the Fair Cobalt Alliance works, we can see that our members have understood this MSI approach, and are involved in making a difference in their interaction with the ASM Cobalt by investing in long-lasting projects and having direct access to the local actors. And at a structural level, we have opted for a more transparent governance, where we have a member-based steering committee. So they are the one approving key decisions, but also a budget allocation. And when we look at also integral to our approach is working with local actors. So a lot of NGOs or international organizations that work at the local level often try to not work with local actors, because they believe that they do not always have their capacities are not always built at the international to the international standards. And rather than running away from that, we prefer to invest in building the capacity of local actors. As I mentioned, we work with Save the Children. So for example, with the child remediation project, Save the Children was able to provide, to build the capacity of our local actor, Maison Kwetu, in order to ensure that even if today our program stops, at least they're able to continue it because their capacity have been built, and they understand what the program is, and there is ownership to that program, and that program will then be replicable because it is really embedded into the local community. Also, in order to so we really do invest, and we try to co-design all the project with the local communities so that they will be replicable. So we have also launched this year our advisory board. We have launched it in order to continue ensuring to have the voices of different actors into the way that we work. So we have 2 representatives from the DRC from the DRC, and one of them, which we are very proud of, is one representative of the Ministry of Mine. So it is really important for us to have all the different actors. So from the government level to the civil society, all the way to the international cooperatives. So that's how we want to do it. But it is also key to say that there is a very large number of actors that work in the ASM cobalt sector, and there's a lot of competition, but we do not believe that that's the way to go, because there is so much to be doing, and all of us could be helpful to one another and really be able to complement the work that we do. So rather than competing, we really believe in cooperation with the actors on the ground as well. And we publish often our progress so that we ensure first the transparency of our work, but also to ensure that there is no duplication of works. If our informations are available to the people, rather than doing the exact same program, we could partner up and actually do further work in that sense. So then in terms of, this is what we have done at a glance in 2021. It was our first full year of operations, because obviously COVID in 2020 slowed down a lot of our activities. So from the very beginning, we really operated with a multi-stakeholder approach by building relations with all actors from the local level to the international level. And it is important to state that the ASM sector is here to stay, and we believe that rather than running away from cobalt, from the artisanal mining, it is better to invest in it in order to ensure better revenues for the workers, but also to ensure that the conditions of work that they have are improved and would actually help people to get more development in the provinces. So that's what I had to share. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alexandra, and congratulations on everything that you're building. Now, I know that I'm being peppered with questions from left and right, which is great. The first one that's come in is, so amongst all of those fantastic logos from the different organizations that are involved, so be it Save the Children, Tesla, Glencore. Now, obviously, there have been lots and lots of reports that have been written about, say, the larger international mining companies. From a reputation perspective, how is that impacting on you?
We believe that it is true that those companies have had in the past a lot of reports that are being written, and I mean, one way to see it is, okay, we do not work with them, or they stay on their own and they just focus on their work. But I believe that if they join the Ferrocobalt Alliance, it's because they want to move not away from what they've done, but to kind of do better than what they've done in the past. So investing now into, actually, like I mentioned, we are a platform. So we are kind of a way of bringing those big corporations with the local communities that was maybe hurt in the past by what has been done, and really finding a solution together into now, how do we work from now on, and how do we then invest into safer ways of working, and taking into consideration all the fair and a correct way of now working with the local community. But it's true that it is Tesla, it is Glencore. There's always going to be, journalists that are going to comment on those. But I believe instead of, running away from that, it is best to directly work and really make a difference there.
So I guess making sure that dialogue, that engagement, that constructive momentum is actually there, rather than just saying, you're evil, you're nasty.
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. The next question that has come in is, so there's been a lot of discussion about the cost of due diligence and transparency, perhaps unfairly borne by some of the poorest producers.
Yes.
How are you tackling that issue in your engagement?
So the question of transparency is at all levels. So it's not it's the government that has to be transparent. It is the international corporation that are buying cobalt also that have to be transparent. So it is really at all level. And one thing from the conversation we've had with the government specifically is that they've built a trading center specifically for the ASM cobalt in the Lualaba area, and it's the Musompo Trading Center. And the idea for that is that every single bags of cobalt that would be leaving the country will be labeled, so it will be able to we will be able to trace exactly where every single mineral is coming from. So that is already one step that the government is taking into the transparency and the traceability of the cobalt. Now, the biggest question with that is that, okay, then you're doing that, but do you ensure that then the cobalt, even if it is traceable, how do you know that it is, how do you know that it is mined in a fair way? And I believe that is the work that we're trying to do, because there are CTC standards that have been put in place into seeing how ASM mine site is supposed to be operating. So the CTC standards are very high, but we believe that we can work in a progressive way into helping a mine. So take the mine where it is and then work towards the CTC standards in order to ensure that the minerals and the working conditions at that site are fair and secured for the miners. So I believe that, as you see, every actor has a role to play for the transparency and for the traceability of the materials that they mine.
That's fantastic. And I think you could see me getting quite excited when you said we're building that trading center, because certainly having really had the amazing opportunity to do a little bit of work in that region, it was the lack of transparency with regards to that full value chain of somebody digging the cobalt out of the ground, and then who do they sell it to, etc. So by pulling that together, that's an amazing step forward.
Yeah, and it kind of also removed that middleman kind of, where the diggers do not necessarily get their fair share of the money and so on. So yeah.
No, it's absolutely fantastic. So I think with regards to this, I could keep asking you questions all day, Alexandra. And I will actually just point to the question that's in the chat at the moment from Michael, which I'll pose to you in a second. But just for everybody else's awareness, over the last few years, we've had a number of talks that have been given to us by individuals discussing what's going on with regards to cobalt, what's happening in that incredibly rich, from a mineralogical sense, part of the DRC. I mean, this is almost where you get that kind of resource curse really coming to the fore, because it's so rich. So there are a number of links that Rose is posting into the chat at the moment. So one from last year, which was called Brittany Goes to the DRC, which is from Francesco Santinelli. So fantastic talk there. And also Estelle Levinelli, who's another fabulous expert when it comes, especially with regards to artisanal and small scale mining, but also understanding cobalt as a sector as a whole. So I think with that, just last question then for you, Alexandra, and feel free to comment on what I've just said as well, is from Michael in the chat. So what contribution was the Extractives Industries Transparency Initiative, or EITI, made it in the DRC to improving transparency of the mining sector, and specifically with regards to cobalt? Do you have any comments on that?
I do not have the specifics on it, but I'm sure that if we take the mining sector as a whole in DRC, there's always a lot of questioning about the transparency, about the role of those big, those large scale mining companies. But the thing is, I believe there is a change, and more so there are actions being taken, because, as I mentioned, 70% of the world's cobalt is coming from DRC. And if the reputation of just the ASM sector is ruining it for the entire 70%, it's not just the ASM sector that will be banned from the international level. It will be the entire sector. So I believe that it is really key for every single actor to really play their role and really ensure that, there's really something positive happening for the ASM sector. And instead of just running away and saying that we're never going to take cobalt from the ASM sector, it will cause even more issues. Because if you look at, for example, child labor, it is caused because of poverty. And if you do not buy then cobalt from the DRC, then it is that there's that increase of poverty. So more children will have to work then instead of going to school to provide for their family and so on. So there is that, but I think it's very good for more people to visit ASM sites in the DRC to actually understand how it works, and to understand that there has been a lot of improvement. If we look at the statistics now, they're very, I think, I don't remember exactly the number, but there's a very small number of children actually found on those on the site. I've been to Kolwezi more than maybe 6 times, and I've never seen any children on an ASM site. So there really is an improvement into the work that is being done on the transparency of the different actors. Maybe not as much as we would want, but there is some improvement being done. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much for that. And I think just building on that, I mean, especially with regards to children, I'd give a little shout out to Estelle is giving another talk to us tomorrow afternoon, where she'll be exploring some of this as well. So Alexandra, thank you so much for that. Absolutely brilliant. Massive round of applause. Thank you.